Hello everyone, my name is Nathan and welcome to a little place I like to call Hale. In 2022, I watched 31 Criterion movies. It almost bothers me a little bit that I didn't get an even 32 so that on Letterboxd there's just not that awkward space. But regardless, I saw 31 new movies and this video will be me talking about my 10 favorites out of those 31. Number 10 goes to M. M was a longtime resident of my watch list and so it was a treat to finally watch the movie. I checked it out in Noirvember and was amazed by Peter Lorre's performance. He's very good at really anything I've seen him in. This movie particularly is probably the standout of his career. A lot of people cite this as his most iconic movie, and I can see why. He plays a very creepy character, and as the movie goes on, you get to know him more, and you just see how conflicted and really messed up he is. My only complaint for the movie is I think it's just very straightforward. There were no surprises, no twists. It went exactly how I expected it to go, and I just wish that I got something else out of it, that it wasn't so straightforward to where I could easily call it from the beginning of the movie kind of thing. But it's made in 1931, it's more than 90 years old, and the fact that it's still being talked about today is very impressive. Number 9 is a pretty cool pick because it's number 1 in the Criterion collection, and that movie is Grand Illusion. This is another movie that's been on my watch list for many years, and so I'm glad that I finally watched it. I didn't realize that it was going to be a prisoner of war camp movie slash a prison escape movie. Prison escape movies are one of my favorite subgenres of all time, and so naturally I was intrigued and I enjoyed this movie. Plus it was fun seeing Erich von Stroheim. He is a frequent actor of Billy Wilder's films, and so it's always fun seeing him pop up in movies. I think he did a good job here, but really the best thing about this movie is seeing the life in the prisoner of war camp and seeing the escape happen. Number 8 is Gilda. I also watched this movie for Noirvember and really enjoyed it because it had all the elements of noir films that I really like. I think a common trope of a noir film is narration, and it had that from Glenn Ford. It also had Glenn Ford, and he's one of my new favorite actors that I discovered in 2022, so that was a plus. But also Rita Hayworth with her iconic performance as Gilda. This probably is like her movie, the most iconic movie that she made in her career, so it's cool seeing it finally and learning more about why it's so iconic. I like the way that things came together in this movie. I mean, Glenn Ford and Rita Hayworth, the relationship is very messy, but you still can't help but root for them the entire movie, and I just like the way that things worked out in the film. Number 7 is The Asphalt Jungle. I watched this in September when Marilyn Monroe was my star of the month. Funny enough, she only has about 7 minutes of screen time in this movie, but she still did a good job. I don't love the movie for her though. I love it because it's a heist film, and that's another favorite subgenre of mine. I don't know if I like a successful heist film or a heist go wrong film more, but I think I'm leaning more towards a heist go wrong film. I think when the heist goes wrong, there's a lot more tension and suspense and just uncertainty of how the movie's going to end. And because The Asphalt Jungle gives that to us, spoiler alert, it provided me with a very enjoyable viewing experience. Number 6 goes to The Circus with Charlie Chaplin. As you can imagine, there were plenty of funny situations that Charlie Chaplin found himself in, but the most notable ones for me were any sequence where he's being chased by the horse, the sequence of him with the lion, and of course the tightrope scene with the monkeys. This was a really fun movie. Number 5 goes to The Cameraman, another silent film making it onto this list, and this was a later watch of the year. When it comes to Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin, I do prefer Buster Keaton. I love his serious expression, and I just appreciate the stunts that he goes through to get like the perfect shot or to move the story along. It's just very impressive to me. Like, Buster Keaton is doing more things in the 20s than actors today are doing, and we are 100 years later. Like, it's insane how that works. Not as many stunts in this one as there are in other Buster Keaton films, but still just a very impressive movie regardless. And the way certain scenes are filmed in this movie just have me really impressed. There's a very funny sequence where it's like a dressing room and the two characters are changing in the same room, but they mix their clothes up. It was funny. I enjoyed it. Buster Keaton's serious face always makes me laugh. Number 4 is Swing Time with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. It's been nearly a year since I first saw Swing Time, and I still remember songs from this movie. And that's really impressive, seeing as how Swing Time is a film from the 30s, and it's not the most talked about musical. But on top of the really catchy music, there's also some amazing dance numbers. Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers also just have really good chemistry, and seeing them not only dance together but sing together, they're both so talented, both at dancing and at singing. In addition to that, Victor Moore as the pop character is the underrated character of the hour. Really liked his character in this movie. I laughed several times in sequences that involved him, and I also just laughed in general several times while watching. The story's pretty basic, but but that's not a problem because it's supplemented with amazing dance numbers and amazing musical numbers. A little dated, absolutely, but if you look past the dated sequences, it's still a very fun time. Number 3 goes to Young Mr. Lincoln. I watched this movie because in February of 2022, my star of the month was Henry Fonda. The stars aligned perfectly. Not only was he my star of the month, but I also watched this movie on President's Day, so it was just an all-around very fitting movie to watch. I was enjoying everything about it. Henry Fonda completely transforms into Abraham Lincoln. In fact, the only part of Henry Fonda that you really recognize is his voice. But the movie went from that great rating to that nearly perfect rating when the courtroom scene happened. I've talked about my favorite subgenres throughout this video, but if there's one that's like my absolute favorite, it might be courtroom dramas. It's my kryptonite. I have a weakness for them. I love courtroom dramas. They're just very fascinating to me. And so the fact that Young Mr. Lincoln is all about Abraham Lincoln and his early career when he was working as a lawyer, and they even show us a case that he worked on, it gained those points. It got that 9 out of 10. I don't know how accurate it is, but I just enjoyed what I got, and I also thought it was much funnier than I was expecting. Number 2 goes to The Heiress. I watched this movie, funny enough, for Montgomery Clift. He was my star of the month, one of the months last year, and I came out of it loving Olivia de Havilland even more. Funny how that worked out. The Heiress is a story about Olivia de Havilland's character who is very well off with money. She is the daughter of a rich, accomplished doctor, and she also has inherited money from not only her mother, but also her father, of course. And the whole movie you're wondering, is Montgomery Clift's character falling in love with her for her money, or is he falling in love with her because he loves her? And I think the movie does a very good job at pushing you both ways. You really don't know what Montgomery Clift is after, but on top of a good story and good performances from everyone, Olivia de Havilland easily stands out as the best performance of the movie. I also think that this is a great example of a strong female-led movie from the 1940s that gets it right. She's independent, she's strong, and there's a lot of character growth throughout the film, and by the time the movie ended, I had a huge smile on my face. The Heiress is incredible. This and my number 1 movie are also the only movies on this list that I've seen twice, so that's saying something too. But my favorite Criterion of the year has to go to 3:10 to Yuma. 3:10 to Yuma is my favorite for many reasons. For one, it exceeded my expectations. I went into it with low expectations, just expecting a boring black and white Western film, but I got a movie that was very engaging, which included great performances by Glenn Ford and by Van Heflin. From the very beginning of a movie, when you start hearing the song 3:10 to Yuma, you're just engaged. The song, it just makes you feel right away like you're in this Western film. Something I didn't really notice until my second watch is how often the 3:10 to Yuma song plays throughout the film. Like at the beginning you hear the song, but then throughout you hear it in the score. You also hear Glenn Ford whistling the tune. You also hear a lady singing it at one point. It almost reminded me of that scene in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone when Hagrid is playing his little flute thing and he's playing Hedwig's theme. Like it's very meta, but it's just a cool little nod as well. And of course the movie ends with a song. Come on. It was engaging, it was enjoyable, and I loved it even on a rewatch. It is my favorite Criterion of 2022. I'd love to hear what everyone else's favorite Criterions were from the year. Make sure to leave your comments below on your favorite watches because it also helps me know what Criterions I should check out. And if you're wondering what movies didn't make the list, then check out my list. I will leave a link in the description below with my list of all the Criterions I watched. Also, stay tuned for my next video. It will be the Alfies, my annual award show. Very excited to release that video. That's where I will crown my ultimate favorite movie of the year, the Best Picture winner. What's it gonna be? I don't know. Stay tuned for my video next week. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.